Economists have predicted that the Israel-Palestine conflict will affect global economy, including Indonesia. We are now connected with Professor Aryawan Gunadi, an expert in business law and international trade, to discuss about the multifaceted impact of the Israel-Palestine conflict on the economy and the business sector with a particular lens on its effects within the Indonesian context. Now, Professor Aryawan, thank you for being here with us today. Where are you in the world at the moment and how are you today, Professor Aryawan?
Thank you very much, Pa Narendra and all. Thank you very much. It's nice. And how about you? Is that good?
I'm good right here in Jakarta, Indonesia. Thank you for being here with us.
Yes, we're in Jakarta and everything's good here.
Okay, same. Professor Aryawan, let's get into the business right here. The first question would be, Professor Aryawan, how does the ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict impact the global economy and international trade? And which sectors that are most seriously affected, Professor Aryawan?
Thank you very much. We see that the emergence of the Israel of Hamas has had a significant impact on global citizens in several ways. We can see, such as the first is the oil price increase, that the Middle East is a significant supplier of global oil, and we know that. Therefore, the Israel-Hamas conflict caused a speculative price hike to do potential supply disruption that affected the global inflation rate and trade balance. That's that we have to know. Secondly, is that the trade disruptions. It can create political and security uncertainty in the region, especially FDI, foreign direct investment, and economic growth. I think this could be impact the global economic and international trade. The third one is that the equity market. If we see that the stock market is experiencing instability in the oil sector due to the warring state of Israel and Hamas, which has an impact of the stock market in countries that depend on the oil sector, that we have to know that there is a relation between oil price increase and also the equity market. And the fourth, of course, the safe haven assets. During the Israel-Hamas war, geopolitical tension caused an increase of the price of gold, so that investors flock in the investment of safe haven assets such as gold. This is also can affect because of the Israel and Palestine conflict. That's partner Narendra.
Okay, thank you so much for mentioning that, Professor Aryawan. So it got 3 points for the impacts about the oil price and global inflation. The second would be political uncertainty, and the third one would be equity market. Now, how does the Israel-Palestine conflict impact Indonesia's economy and businesses, both in the short term and the long term edition, Professor Aryawan?
Yeah, thank you very much. If we see that, I see from the short term that oil price soar will be impact. And second, increased inflation. We have to pay attention with the inflation, forcing interest rate to rise, which can reduce demand. This is, I think, for the short term, can be affected for Indonesian economy. And for the long term, of course, global stagflation also important that we have to pay attention. That's why I think from the impact of the Israel-Palestine conflict, Indonesia have to, set some kind of, several ways how to handle all this kind of situation. I think the short term and long term, especially for global stagflation, also very important that we have to pay attention, Pak Narendra.
Yes, Professor Aryawan, the short term and the long term indeed is very important. Now, could you provide an overview of Indonesia's economic ties and trade relations with countries in the Middle East and how these connections are influenced by this conflict, Professor Aryawan?
Yes. We have to know that the Indonesian economic relation with countries, especially in Middle East, because we have a good relation with Middle East, this is very, have grown in recent decades. The Middle East is one of the regions rich in natural resources, especially oil and gas, as we know, and has become important factor in economic relation with Indonesia. And apart from oil and gas, trade between Indonesia and Middle East also involve other products. We have to know, such as like agricultural products, manufacturers, services, workers that work in several sectors. This is also, have a good relation between Indonesia and Middle East, particularly in domestic labor and construction. This is very important. I underline that domestic labor and constructions. However, the economic relationship is vulnerable, the influence of conflict in the Middle East. Conflicts, especially those involving countries in Middle East, such as the civil war in Syria or tension in Gulf region, also disrupt oil and gas supplies. And this could have impact for the world oil crisis, which is turn effect of the Indonesian economic. And Indonesia also has expanded economic ties with Middle East countries and trade. That's why this is very important for our economic diplomacy and cooperation in various fields such as education and culture, and put a growing relationship between Indonesia and countries in Middle East. I think this is very important for the economic diplomacy, Pak Narendra.
Yes, thank you for mentioning about oil and gas, labor and construction, and also about the diplomatic education stuff. Now, how does the conflict affect Indonesia's energy sector, particularly regarding, as you mentioned, oil prices and the stability of energy supplies, because Indonesia is dependent on imports? Professor Aryawan.
Yes, the energy is one of the biggest issue also, especially instability for Indonesia and Middle East. Rising oil prices will have a direct impact on the cost of crude oil imports by Indonesia, and this could cause inflationary pressure and increase production costs, especially in various sectors of the economy. And conflict in the Middle East may also destabilize oil supplies. And these potential disruptions include attacks on on infrastructure, disruptions of shipments or oil embargoes by certain producers in response to conflict. And also it can affect energy supplies for Indonesia and unpredictable fluctuation in oil prices. I think this is one of the impact, and also the impact of dependence on crude oil from the Middle East raise the need to further diversify energy sources, I think. And also, I take notes that the Indonesian government has been trying to increase the use of renewable energy sources, such as solar and wind power, to maximize domestic energy resources. I think this is one of a good effort of the government of Indonesia, how to they develop, the alternative energy. The Indonesian government also is taking steps to manage the impact of the conflict of the oil prices. Example, as we know, the fuel subsidies and also reduce the fiscal burden of fluctuating world oil prices and management of strategic oil reserve for long-term agreement with oil products and the strategy to cope with oil price fluctuation. That's it.
Yes, thank you, Professor Aryawan. It's good to know that Indonesian government are taking measures in the rising oil prices and the use of renewable energy. Now, lastly, Professor Aryawan, what recommendations do you have for the Indonesian businesses looking to maintain economic stability and growth amidst the ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict and other regional geopolitical tensions? Professor Aryawan.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Narendra. I think first of all, that Indonesians business have to pay attention that diversify their resources and markets. This is very important. What is the uniqueness in their product? Comparing to Middle East or other, parts, other part of the world. By increasing diversify in supply chains and customer, business can reduce their vulnerability to the international market fluctuation influenced by the tension of the Israel and Middle East or other regions. Secondly, Indonesian business should strengthen the economic diplomacy and cooperation with countries in other region which are not involved in geopolitical tension. Because as we know that Indonesia, we have a politik bebas aktif. I think this will help mitigate the direct impact of regional uncertainty and open up more stable market opportunities. I think this is very important and strengthen Indonesia as a part of ASEAN. Third, that the Indonesian government should continue to strengthen the regulatory framework that support investment and trade. We have also omnibus law to support all this. I think this is can improve the investment climate, legal protection, and early warning of geopolitical intentions that could affect the business. And finally, the investment in technology and innovation. This is very important because it can help enterprises, Indonesian business to remain competitive and also developing technological capabilities and focusing on products and service needed to the global market also will create a stronger and more sustainable economic base. I think that's it, Pak Narendra.
Thank you so much for the talks today, Professor Aryawan, and thank you for your thoughts and opinions. And it's a nice business class right here in the breaking news of Gaza crisis. Have a good day today, Professor Aryawan.
Thank you very much, Pak Narendra and all TVRI world. Thank you very much.